So on this episode of Unlimited, Leigh and I are going to discuss a topic very close to our hearts, aren't we, Leigh? We're going to talk about the big P word. There's many big P words, actually. Yeah, there's profit, other big forms of P, planning. But today we're going to talk and speak about proximity and environment. Proximity meaning being close to something or someone or groups of people. So in your definitions, Leigh, what's proximity mean to you?
Yeah, I agree and have a similar definition of it to what you just explained, but I think we'll give the listeners a little bit of context of how we're going to be using proximity, and it's being close to those who have done what you have already done, what you want to do, or have what you need. And I think it's a real hack to success, because we speak about all the time about how important environment is. And this is essentially what proximity is how you curate your environment around you. In the context of what we're speaking about, in business, in life, in skill set, finding people that have already done what you would like to do, or have great systems and ideas that you could use. So that's going to be the basis of what we are going to speak about. And it's funny, right? We've just got back from Fiji. We had an incredible time in Fiji. Again, close proximity to a lot of great minds, people that have 10x, 50x, 100x what we've already done. And that was very inspiring and motivating. But I think I had a moment of reflection, and I think for both of us, we've been very good at the proximity game in our own lives. We've been very good at putting ourselves around great minds, great people, not being afraid to find it, not being afraid to ask for it, not being afraid to even pay for it. I think that's been a real hack for both of our lives. And this is going to sound a little bit show off, but like, oh yeah, I was in the ocean in Fiji having a wonderful time, some downtime, and I was just having that moment of reflection and just thought, wow, yeah, we've actually, that's a huge part of our success, is actually having the humility to put ourselves in proximity with great minds.
100%. I agree massively. And I think for such a long time for us, it was free as well, or we were getting paid to be in proximity. Like, there's a couple of different approaches, right? Like, you can pay for proximity. It can be also free, and you can get paid to be in proximity as well, like, depending on where it is that you were working. So where we were working for a long time was a place where we were getting paid for the proximity when we were at that point of our careers. So we were around people that were better than us, had more knowledge, had more skills, had more experience than us at that time in particular parts of their skill set. And we would just put ourselves in those environments, forever remain a student, and keep leveling up. And I also think about, like, what's the opposite? What's the opposite to putting yourself in proximity? Just banging your head against the wall and doing the same thing day in, day out, and never experiencing or seeing what's possible in life. I hope my friend doesn't listen to this, but I have a friend that I just recently saw close a business. Now, I haven't spoke to him about it, so I don't know the ins and outs, I don't know the details, but he basically just had to, like, shut his business down that he's been running for about a year. And in my eyes, there's no way that this should have happened. There's just absolutely zero reason why that business shouldn't have worked and shouldn't have been profitable and shouldn't have, worked. But maybe the humility wasn't there to ask for help and get around the right people that can help, because you're only ever a couple of people away from a completely different life, giving you a bit of advice, giving you a bit of inspiration, whatever that might look like, you're only a couple of people away from it. And just being around these people is enough sometimes. You know, I think too many people get stuck on the how, like how things are going to happen, but like just get directionally correct, get your what you want to do, what impact you want to make, why you want to do it in place, put yourself around people. And then I heard Tony Robbins saying something along the lines of, you know, proximity is worth billions to your life potentially if you use it correctly. You know, asking the right questions. You know, you never know who you're speaking to. Like, for example, right? Like I strolled into a cafe here yesterday or the day before, and I sat down next to a guy called Dan Bolton, who has generated $10 million from an audience of less than 10,000 followers. And like just the conversation that I had with him, and like I've been following him online for a long time, and just his way of thinking and the way that he approached that conversation. You know, everyone else in that cafe probably didn't know who he was. So you never know who you're speaking to and what they can give you. And proximity also works in the opposite way, right? Like you also can be around people who aren't doing good for you and bringing you on a negative downturn and a negative spiral. So it's really important that we tap into like what it is that we want to do for our lives, and then put ourselves in appropriate environments, put ourselves around the right people. Like you were saying, I think that's one of our biggest hacks so far, was finding the people to surround ourselves by to accelerate our careers. Like when I was in Fermoy, when I was in Ireland, I realized pretty quickly that I was like, I'm not going to really get any further than here if I just stay here. I need to get around people who are doing it way better than me. If I see myself as this type of person, I need to be in a room with people who are doing it way better than me. And this, it's funny, right? Like it's a cliche kind of thing, like your environment is everything, the power of environment, proximity is power, right? We might say all these things, and it's really hard to like actually drill the point across without it sounding salesy. But this is literally the truth. This is literally what works. Listen, apply, do, surround yourself by these people and with these people, and you just never know what's possible. That's where the limitless potential comes in.
Mm. What comes to mind is that a saying of like, you know, you'll pay either way. You'll pay with your time or you'll pay with your money. And what we're speaking about right now is paying with your time. But if you're gonna pay with your time, it pays you if you think about how you're going to use your time. Because like you said, you know, it equally works in both ways. If you're around a bunch of deadbeats all the time, you're going to be the next one. But if you're around a bunch of, let's say, I don't know, millionaires or abundance mindset people or growth mindset people, it's highly likely you're going to be the next one. Very hard, very, very hard to be the odd one out in a group like that. You know, I notice it in myself, like the mirror neurons in my in my body must be quite strong, because yeah, whenever I insert myself into a different environment, I can feel myself start to change and start to move for the better or the worse. So it's real stuff. The energy of it is real. So yeah, I think, you know, if you're going to pay with your time, which is where a lot of people start, it's so good to think about how you're going to spend that time, for sure. Because money's infinite, right? You can get endless amounts of money, but you can't get endless amounts of time. It's the one resource that's running out for everybody. So totally. If we know that we're going that way, why don't we have a little nudge on what that's going to look like, right?
And I think that could be the bottleneck for a lot of people, is thinking that they have more time than what they actually have. I put a post out this morning saying, you know, time is the ultimate paradox, because you have so much of it, yet so little of it, right? And you can't make any more of it. But when I reflect on what I did before hair, when I was a cyclist, there was a time frame on like when you could turn professional. Like you didn't have forever. Like teams wouldn't sign you after 23. Like you were done. At 23, that was it. Like you have to be exceptional to even get a look in after 23 years old. So what that meant was that I had to get the right people, the right resources, and do the right training in a specific time frame in order to make that dream or that goal become a reality. Whereas, you know, people look at their business and they look at their skill set and they look at barbering or whatever they look at, and they think, oh, I'll have forever, so I'll just continue just to chip away at it day by day, and not like, oh, I'll get to that one day. Like, oh, I'll get to that one day. I'll put myself in that coaching group one day, or I'll get myself around those people one day. But like, when that one day comes, you will always wish you've done it sooner. Like, that's the thing. Like, when I surrounded myself with great coaches as a cyclist, I got way better, you know. And I have a few stories that I could tell on proximity when it comes to cycling, but it's a great example of when you surround yourself with professionals, you become a professional. And if you want to be a professional, you have to do what professionals do. And you won't become a professional by hanging around with amateurs. It's just not how it works. You have to hang out with other professionals. I'll give you an example. When I was a cyclist and I was almost professional, right? I was at that level. Even when I was professional for the last year that I did it, I would go back to my hometown where I did these league races. And the league races, like, so for context, my hometown, 6,500 people, not a massive cycling community within it. But we used to do these league races every Tuesday night where it was just like basically a kick around type race where you just go around and you do fucking 10 laps of this circuit. And when I was 17 or 16, I can't even remember, when I was really young, I won the whole league series. Like, they do like a whole league series where the most consistent person wins. I pretty much came first or second every week when I was younger. But when I went back there as a professional, it still wasn't easy for me to win. And what was crazy, right? Like, the very next week I went to a professional race in Europe, and I lined up with some of the biggest names in sport, like in the cycling sport. Like, I was on the start line with all of these guys that were on posters on my wall growing up as a kid. I was literally could see the bloody spots on their legs from when they were shaving, you know, all sorts. I was right there in proximity with them, right? And my standards changed based on the proximity. And I thought, I'm a professional. I'm here on purpose. But then I thought about the league race that I couldn't win the week before. Not that I couldn't win it, but like, it just wasn't easy to win. And I thought about that the week before, and I thought, none of the people in that race would last 10 minutes in this professional race. So how is it that I can't just easily win the league race? But you fall to the standards of your environment. You literally fall or rise to the standards of your environment. You know, like, if you put Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch with the best players in the world, he will rise up and be one of the best players on that pitch. But then you put him in the Saudi league and he's only as good as the team that are around him. He's only as good as the environment that he's in. Like, you can be the best player in the world, and if you're surrounded by shit people, you're not going to get to where it is that you want to go. And it's the same thing in business. Like, that's why we seek a lot of advice from people outside of the hair industry, because we want to bring something different to the hair industry. We want to help our clients see different, believe different, get different results, get better, potentially better results than they have been getting for what they want from their lives. And we're not going to find that by going to seek advice and counsel from people who already aren't doing it that well. So we have to see what the fuck's going on in other business groups. Like, we need to see what's going on in the black belt world, what's going on in the Kerwin race space. We're consistently listening to podcasts. Podcasts and books and all of that stuff are also your environment. Like, your clients are your environment. As a barber, as a hairdresser, your clients are your environment. What they're telling you about yourself is going to become reality too. Some people don't think they can charge more because of what their clients think. It's crazy. So your environment and your proximity has such a powerful aura about it. Like, there's an energy surrounding it. And you know what, my friend, whoever's listening to this, you have complete and utter control of that proximity. And the personal brand piece that we speak about all the time is going to be the thing that gives you the remote control to your proximity. And I don't know when the personal brand thing is going to land. I've said this to you yesterday, Leigh. I've been saying this now for years. years. When is the personal brand thing going to land? And I hope it's soon.
Yep.
I bloody hope it's soon.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. Like, you know, especially now in this day and age, like I've been very careful with my proximity for about, I would say about 10 years now. I remember when I was about 23, 22, 23, like the way I think now, I remember there was a distinct change. I was like done with listening to the people around me. I was like, all right, I don't like how this is looking. This doesn't look good to me. So what can I do to try and change that? And thank God for the internet. Like the internet came along and made that possible. Before that, you had to be fortunate either to be around those types of people just by sheer luck, or you had to be encouraged to read books. And I think that would have highly depended on your relationship with school, because people probably linked books to school and probably thought, oh, I did that at school, I didn't like it, I'm not a reader, blah, 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 blah. All the excuses under the sun, right? Thank God for the internet. So when I made a shift in my mindset and the way that I wanted my life to go, the internet was there and it was just starting to pop. And there were people putting things on YouTube and online courses and doing webinars and putting out different books. Like I was, got into Ty Lopez early days. He was like a book a day guy. He was teaching people how to speed read books, like one a day. And so I started doing that. I started going on to webinars, like I say. So my mind was filled with all of these people. That was my proximity. I wasn't listening to the people who were in my real life proximity because I didn't like what they were doing, how their life had gone, and where their life was going. And for context, I was similar to your Fermoy situation. I was in a town, 10,000 people and less, and I was working in a salon where everybody was like double my age. I was like 21, 22, 23 at this time, and they were already in their mid 40s. Nearly all of them were. And I looked at their lives and thought, well, I don't really like how this has turned out for you. And I don't really like the look of where it's going. So I need to be careful of my environment here. And so I filled my mind with the online space, the audio space, and the book space. And that was my circle for a long time. I remember, I think we had this conversation years ago about that was it for me for a long time until I met you and the guys at our previous company. My circle was not even people that I could call up or speak to in person. It was like books, people online, and courses that I'd enrolled in. And that might sound a bit dark and dim for some people, but my God, did it work. It works so well. And I think that's the power of it. It doesn't have to be the people in your actual physical life. There's so many options out there now. And that's why we offer what we offer, right? Is because we know that people's actual physical worlds aren't always great. So we offer that version online of coaching where, okay, if your physical circle isn't great and you really can't change proximity right now, we're a great option. And that's really what I'm seeing as AMP starts to develop and it's getting bigger and more people coming in. It's really becoming a beautiful circle of humans that have similar vision, similar kind of beliefs and values on life. And it's really cool proximity.
Yeah, totally.
And we get to tap into that every week, which is really cool.
I think the lesson there, and what I'm taking from what you're saying, what I'm picking up from what you're putting down, is that if you look around currently and you don't see anybody in your environment or proximity that has what you want to have, you have to go and find it. It's not going to come and find you. Like, you have to surround yourself with the people. You have to go and find the people. You have to put yourself in the environments, because their environments aren't going to find you. Yes, serendipitously, they might show up and you might get signed and things might pop up on Instagram or things might pop up as ads or whatever. And then it's up to you to like either take those signs or don't. But the likelihood is like most of us will have had that opportunity at some point. Like when I reflect on like massive turning points in my journey in business, the carbon race space was a massive one, that was huge. you know, you were the one who put me onto that and put me down that direction. So like sometimes it's just being around good people. You never know what's going to come from it, you know, like that's the thing. Like, and I think going back and touching on the personal brand piece, when the proximity thing gets really powerful is based on like how your reputation is with people. You know, if you put yourself in proximity with people and you're like, you never know, like I said earlier in the podcast, you never know who you're speaking to and what they can potentially do for you and how they can impact and change your life. Like, don't be so ignorant to think that like the clients that even sit in your chair can't be the ones that could save you. They could very well be. The people that could potentially save your life could be right in front of your very face, but you just can't see them because maybe right now you're not open-minded enough to see them like that. And that's okay. It's all okay. But now it's just a lens of awareness. Like look at some people that you think, damn, I really like how that person lives. Like, how can I adopt a little bit more of that and then adapt it to my life? You know, what I picked up from what you also said there, Leigh, was about looking at people online, like the Tai Lopez's, like different people that you were following early days, and just copying what they do. Like just literally take their advice and copy what they do at the start. Like, how do you expect to have it figured out at the beginning? You have to copy. You haven't earned the right to adapt yet. You know, that's what one of our coaches says. He's like, you haven't even earned the right to adapt yet. Just adopt first, adapt later. And, you know, when I reflect on your journey, Leigh, you were way ahead of the curve when it came to like content creation and vlogging and doing all of that. Like that's a skill that you've been building for many, many years. So like, yeah, all of it's compound interest. Even proximity is compound interest. I feel like the longer we're around people and the longer we're around good people, more opportunities and cooler things keep popping up and happening. And the beauty of paying for the proximity is it puts a value on it. That's the beauty of paying for proximity. It puts value on it because if I'm the type of person who spends $50,000 a year on my coaching, I'm going to do things that are related to $50,000 a year worth of investment. I'm going to show up and act like that person. I'm not going to show up and do things that somebody who is spending no money on their proximity or education is going to do. Like there's a girl that I follow called Felicity Morgan, and she spends $500,000 a year on her coach. And it's not for the coach, it's for her, because that's going to make her show up like a person who spends $500,000 a year on a coach. Like she's not going to start slacking and not posting content every day, not being on top of what work she needs to do. Like she's going to make sure that she makes the most of that and gets the most out of it. So like sometimes paying for the proximity is necessary. If you really want to take things to the next level, like doing the free proximity will get you started. But if you really want to like 10x, if you really want to start making 6-7 figures, like we're building right now a 6-figure coaching business on this way to 7 figures in the near future, and it's going to just keep going from there. But there's no way we'd be able to do that without the help and without the proximity of the people in our lives, hence why we went to Fiji. And I'd actually love to talk into Fiji a little bit in a minute, but
yeah.
But yeah, what do you think, Leigh?
I'll just add, I love where you were going with that. And the Karen Ray thing was really another pivotal moment for me. I know it was massive in your life, but it served as a great reminder for me. I remember being at one of the shows we were at together, and I can't remember how it came about, but there was a particular frustration in my life about the proximity in my life. And I don't know why the lesson had escaped me, but I was thinking, why isn't my proximity changing? Like, why aren't people around me that I'd like around me? And the lesson that I got from going to Karen Ray that particular time was, if it isn't around you, you have to go and find it. You can't just sit around and think, Oh, well, I wish it was different. Oh, these people suck. Like, oh, this. That's actually you not taking responsibility for your life. And adults, mature adults, take responsibility for their life. And I think this is one of the like mind viruses of our time is people not taking responsibility for their life. It doesn't work both ways. Yet it doesn't work one way. It has to work both ways. Yes, people are responsible for what they do, but you're also responsible for what you do in your life too. It's not just, oh, let the world do what it does and it should all just come to me. It's like, no, you need to take a lot of responsibility for what happens in your life as well. So that was massive for me. It was a great reminder of like, it's like a voice in my head, Leigh, if your environment isn't how you want it to be, you can't just sit around and wait for it to turn up. Sometimes you got to go and get it. You got to go find it. And that leans and leads beautifully into like the paying for it piece. And so before we kind of get into the Fiji thing, something that I heard in what you were saying too was like thinking about all this and working on all of this really makes a difference in who you are for other people in other people's proximity too. Like I've had experiences now that the benefits of working on yourself in this way, I've had experiences now where me being in someone else's proximity has rubbed off in them in such a way that they've gone and invested in coaches. Like someone who was my client, who started off as a client I didn't really even enjoy, but we worked on the relationship. I was who I was all the time. And me being in that person's proximity, they are now a client of one of our coaches, which is wild. So you never know who you're going to be to someone else in their proximity too, which is so, so powerful. And I can't think of a better way to live my life than being that for other people as well. Like that's just service in itself. That's just a beautiful knock-on effect of like me working on myself rubs off on others. So yeah, it's not just about like, what do I want out of this? It's like, who am I for others too? And that's where barbering gets really powerful. The hair industry gets really powerful. I don't know many barbers that can say, I am this type of person, and that rubbed off in a way that my client went and got coaching from one of my coaches about finance. Like, I doubt that conversation happens very often. Most people are just talking about going out on the weekend, what clothes they're wearing, how much they don't like the way they look, and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, which might be where you're at in your life. But I think it starts to level up after a while, which is just such what a great way to live life.
100%. It's when you put yourself in proximity with others, it changes who you are, it changes how you think. And the butterfly effect of that is massive. What's that stat that you normally share at the 3-day course about like the effect that we can have on like one person spreads to like 400 people or something?
Yeah, the butterfly effect of one person is approximately 400 people.
Yeah.
By the time it's gotten through where it's got to go.
So now we're kind of playing in the influence realm. Now we're playing in the influence realm because the word influencer is thrown around, but like we all have an opportunity to influence other people around us, which is our environment, which is our proximity. And quite often we never really will know the impact that we are making, either positive or negative. And I'd rather make a positive impact than a negative impact, consciously positive impact. And you just reminded me there, like I actually have a couple of clients as well. I'm thinking of one guy in particular, you'd know him as well, who has gone and got coaching with one of my coaches, Ryan Moresby White, on emotional regulation and becoming a better partner for his partner, his girlfriend, or his potential wife, potential mother of his kids. He realized through me doing that, I've got some unhealed stuff that I need to go and work on so that I can be better in a relationship. That's potentially saved somebody's life. That's potentially saved his kids' lives. That's potentially that's way more important than the opposite. The complete opposite is making him feel like a piece of shit because his hairline isn't perfect. Now, this guy in particular has a very, very strong hairline, so I wouldn't even bring that up. But not that I would bring it up anyway. But But yeah, just the impact and the influence that we can have that goes far, far beyond just a haircut. You know, it's
Oh
massive.
man, it's the same. My that scenario I just explained to you is the same. I would think, and you know, that me being the way I am has saved this particular person's life too, because when we
Yeah,
first
saved his
met,
business, saved his life,
saved it.
saved his
Well,
business.
yeah, you know, it was addicted to certain things, thought about life in certain ways, all this kind of stuff. Fast forward, you know, a few years, and he's now sober, doing this, taking his life and his business to new levels, sees it in a completely different light. It's got beautiful purpose. And that feels great that I am the trusted voice for that stuff. He particularly asked me, Leigh, I'm looking for this. Who do you think I should choose? And wow, what a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, to have your opinion be trusted that much is amazing. And before we start talking about the paid stuff, one thing that I will kind of touch on is, like you were talking about, the free stuff will get you so far. But always try to be conscious for anybody listening to this. This isn't like a dig on anyone. This is like purely from love. Why do I speak about this? Because I've experienced this myself. But you know, hair in general, especially barbering, is such a low barrier to entry job. Like you hardly have to invest anything to get into it. So just be careful about what that does to your psychology. Be careful that it doesn't warp your mind in thinking that that's just how life is. Everything should just be like that. Education should be free. Like, we're hearing that a lot at the moment. And people think education should be free. It's like, what? Just because barbering itself is a low barrier to entry, just be careful that that doesn't warp how you see the rest of the world, because you know your spending is another person's income. Always remember that. So that's one thing I'll leave that free piece on, is like, just be careful when you are opting into things, because there's tons of free stuff out there. And I still meet people today that think coaching should be free. All these influencers should just be giving everything away for free. It's like, well, okay, I get it. We all love free stuff, but also be careful of what that's doing to your own psychology as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was summed up beautifully. But you know what's crazy is, like, everything that every coach shares is available for free online somewhere. But it's putting it in order and customizing it to fit into like your particular life and what you want from your life. That's where it pays to get the advice, or that's where it pays to pay for the advice. Because when you pay for it, it makes it real. You know,
Yeah.
like, other than that, it's just like all of the information that we'll ever need in the world is inside every single bookshop. If you go into a bookshop, all the information's in there in words. But what you're essentially paying for with coaching is somebody to take the words that you need and like summarize them and cut out the fluff, cut out the shit. And sometimes it takes paying for that for you to take it seriously. Because like you said, you'll pay with your time or you'll pay with your money. And if you pay with your money, you can always make more money. You can't make more time. Yeah. So it's beautiful to see that influence, that ripple effect can rub off on so many different people. You know, we see it in our own coaching group in our world with some of the guys that we've worked with, some of the teams that we've worked with, and like just how their mindset is now around like how they operate in the world and like what they see as possible. And it's beautiful to see, you know, taking the numbers out of it. Some of them have added 5-6 figures to their business per year. But the most important thing is now they're seeing opportunities where they never saw opportunities, and they're connected to why they want to do it. They're really purpose driven. You know, they're putting their families first. They're making better decisions for their entire lives, not just how they're cutting hair or how their business runs. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And if we never went and put ourselves in the proximity of the people that we put ourselves around, we wouldn't be able to help or serve our people either. It just wouldn't be happening. Like, there's no way in hell that we'd be able to add 6 figures to someone's business if we didn't do it ourselves first, or we didn't put ourselves around people who are doing astronomically more than that. There's people in our coaching groups who are doing that every single week, you know, and what people are doing in a barbershop in a year, there's people in our coaching groups doing that in a week, in a month, you know, with an email. So like, there's so much more to the world to see. And I think, you know, if we just stay around the people that we always have been around, we're always going to receive what we've always had. So that's why we went to Fiji. You know, I remember we were sitting and making a decision. It was a conversation that we were having for a while about, will we go to Fiji? Will we not? It was something that, you know, we really wanted to do. But of course we had to make a business decision on whether or not we're going to do it. But then the reality of it is like we sat and thought, well, are we going to figure out the roadmap to where we want to go by ourselves? And the answer was no. Like, well, yes, but it might have taken us years. But we don't want to do it in years. We want to do it in months. So
and not because, like, I think some people can get the wrong idea of this sometimes, think, oh, everything needs to be done fast. It's like, it's not that everything needs to be done fast. It's like the world just moves so quickly that we need to pay for that proximity to actually keep up. Because if it took us years to work out what we know right now, it might be out of date by then. Like, we may never, ever, ever get ahead. And I see that in hair so much, man. Some of the haircuts I see going on right now, you should have been doing them in 2015. Like, it's not new, it's not cool, it's not flash. It's like, guys, if you're only doing that now, you're going to be swimming like up current pretty much your whole career. And that is what I think I've learned a lot, is like, wow, I never not want to be in these environments anymore. Because again, when you're in the proximity, you've got minds that come together from all corners of the globe and all corners of business. And it's magic what people will share with you, what they see. They might just, one conversation can completely change the trajectory of your year and your life. So that's the speed thing. It's not because things need to be rushed, but because the rate of change in the world, if it takes you too long to work something out, it will be out of date. Like later on. Like, guys, there were killers at fading hair back in 2015. Killers. You know, don't spend too much time trying to just cut the cord, pay for the experts, just go and get expert advice on how to fade hair, because that is not really something that you need to be wasting your time learning right now, because there's been 10 years of killers showing you how to do it. It's like, don't make that your focus right now, because, you know, in a few years' time, it might be outdated, or you've just, you know, not wasted, but you've probably stalled a little bit on 3 to 5 years of like things that really matter in accelerating your life and career. So that's kind of where my mind goes with that. It's like, yeah, that's where coaching and proximity is so powerful. And something that I've learned over the past few months, actually, you know, with us showcasing our lives in this way, and you know, rubbing shoulders with people that are doing anywhere from like, you know, 450K a month to $1.5 million a month to 100 million a year. People have been asking me the question, how do you justify the value exchange between you and those people? And I think this is what holds a lot of people back from actually asking for help and going finding help, is they think that they're not a big enough fish to be in proximity with these people. And my response to that was, I would hate to rob somebody of their opportunity to help someone today, i.e. help me, because I would hate for somebody to rob me of the opportunity to help them. And what you realize is, wow, once you can get over that hurdle of being afraid to ask a question, two things happen. For me, I think, all right, I'd hate, most successful people they just want to help people. Why? Because they know how bloody hard it is to get there. They've got so many answers, they could confuse you in a heartbeat. So they're just going to try and simplify as much as possible. They've usually been doing it 5, 10, 20 years. So they're just willing to help. They're so goddamn rich, they don't care. They're not really worried about you. They're just happy to help you. And the second piece is, if that's how you feel, okay, make your life about becoming as valuable as you possibly can in those scenarios. And I can probably speak for you as well in this sense. I walk into those rooms not worried anymore about can I hold my own in these conversations, because I know there's always something that I know that these people don't know. And it could be a completely random topic. Like, I'm not even talking about business. You'd be amazed at what makes a well-rounded and interesting person is if you can take a conversation on a little journey, on a little meander, and tie different things in. Like, I know a lot about health and fitness. It's amazing how I can tie that into a business conversation. Someone will be talking about how they made $100 million a year. But, oh, that reminds me of that. And that's kind of similar to like that. Oh, I can build a framework around that. It's like all of a sudden you're in the loop, you're in the conversation. All of a sudden they think you're an interesting person. So that's a big roadblock that I see. If there's one thing you can take from this, if you're thinking, yeah, Leigh, Eoin, this sounds really cool, but like I'm just shit scared of even asking anybody. Okay. Try and get over the fear. Ask a question, because the people that I think we enjoy working with the most and the people we help the most ask great questions, and they're just asking questions. I think it's something that we speak about all the time. I wish people would ask me more questions, because I would just love to help more people. That's what my life is about, helping people. So if you can, try and get over that hurdle, ask the questions. And secondly, don't ever stop working on what value you bring to the table as well. It doesn't have to be money. You don't have to be thinking, oh, well, I'm not worth 10 million, so I can't sit at this table, or I don't drive this type of car, or I don't have this kind of house. No. Just get some knowledge, get some interesting topics that you like to talk about, get well versed in certain things, read a few books, get familiar with what people talk about. All of a sudden, there's confidence in walking into these rooms and thinking, you know what, I can hold my own in this room. I might not be an expert at what they know, but I definitely know something about something. And I have just certain things in my back pocket that I'm ready to share when I need to. So I think that's super powerful. That's been a big thing for me lately, is trying to help people get over that hurdle of actually asking for help.
Yeah, totally. What I've noticed from surrounding myself with these people as well is the more that I surround myself with people playing a much larger game of business than me, I realize that like it's actually not that far away, and it's simpler as it gets bigger. Like, they're just looking for ways to like continue to simplify. And like what we've been taught by the system, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, is that it's the opposite way around. Like, that it's more complicated than what it is when we're down scrambling. And it's not the case, you know. And we hear this, this is not my opinion. This is stuff that we heard other people in black belt say in Fiji. It's like, geez, I thought that this person who's doing 100 million a year was going to be able to teach me something, but like they didn't have like the simplest things figured out yet. So it's not a case of like humans being better than humans. It's just humans playing different games, and like we can learn from everybody's different games, which is really, really cool and awesome. And yeah, I just think it pays to just put yourself in the environment and be curious. It's not even about even having the questions to ask. You won't know what questions to ask at the start. But if you have a feeling that you're not where you want to be, just put yourself in a different environment. We never knew that we were going to go down the road that we're going down now. Like, we didn't sit back when we started cutting hair and think, you know what, like at a certain point, I want to start striving towards like being a coach so that I can help other people and like live in Bali. And like, I never thought that this was going to be a possibility. Never, ever. But it only became a possibility by putting myself in proximity with people who saw this as a possibility. And it gave me ideas. It gave me belief. It showed me what was possible. You know, I have always had this thing where I could look at another human being and say, you have 2 legs, you have 2 arms, you have a head, you have hands, you have feet like me. So why can't I do what you've done? Always. And I think when you get yourself in the rooms like we've been in, it's just incredible to hear what people are doing, how impactful it is, like how clever it is, how much freedom and joy and happiness they have. Speaking of Dan Bolton, the guy I met the other day at the cafe, when I was chatting to him for that 5 to 10 minutes, it's like he's the exact person that I see online. He's a living embodiment of what he was saying. Like it was the exact person that I see in all of the videos talking about the exact same things. Just a chill dude living a great life, making lots of money and helping lots of other people do the same. And guys, for whoever's listening to this, all of you have the opportunity to do that as well. Every single person. You just have to put yourself around the right people, in proximity with the right people who have the right frame of mind, and anything is possible. With proximity comes possibility. And without proximity to those people, you'll just be in proximity with other people. Proximity can also make you powerless. It's powerful, but it can also make you powerless, because if you're around people who don't believe that this stuff is possible, look at the proximity of where we grew up. There's a lot of people where I'm from who just don't think anything other than what they currently see and have is possible. And that's okay. Like that's just where they're at. But like they don't even realize like the power and the impact that they could be having on the world, like with their skills. It's literally about taking your skills and packaging them up in a way where they're valuable to other people, and it will allow you to live an unlimited life. Hence why we call the podcast Unlimited. We're striving towards unlimited potential, limitless potential. And like now, when we sit down and we jam on business, which we do most days, we're working on massive projects at the moment. It's just so exciting because it can go in so many different ways. It's like, which one are we just going to choose? It's like, now we have choice. Now we have options. Now we have possibilities because of the proximity that we've been around. And without that, we wouldn't have even been aware of what's possible. So it pays. And if you want it to pay, sometimes you have to pay. But just get started for free. That's why we have Training Ground. That's why we have this podcast. There's plenty of books. We can make recommendations. Consume our Instagram content and don't just look at it as entertainment. Actually use it. Use it and see what will happen.
Well, what I hear there, and something that you say a lot, is associate with it. Associate with the information. We don't really post for entertainment that often, and I think that's what gets tricky about our marketing is a lot of people just use Instagram and TikTok for entertainment. Like yeah, and if it's not funny or if it's not like whatever, people just go straight past it. But there are people out there trying to share like real value all the time, and that's what we're doing. So yeah, if you come across one of our posts and it strikes a chord, try and associate with it and try and find something in there that you can use, because really we're just slowly but surely chipping away at everything we know, and we're just giving it away in little bite-sized pieces in content form. And if you spend enough time looking at it, you'll gradually piece the puzzle together and be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah,
because we're the same. Like you meet us in real life, we're the exact dudes that we are online. Happy to help, full of knowledge, full of love, and living a great life. Having fun.
So guys, showing up is half the battle, just to wrap up the podcast because we're coming to time here, but showing up is half the battle. And if you can't show up for yourself, then nobody else is going to show up for you. Show up. Sometimes you might not have it all figured out. I think that's what stops most people is thinking that they have to have it all figured out before they even show up. It's like, no, showing up will help you figure it out. If you see things online that you like, just go to the things, go to the free things, go to the free events, pay for the events. It doesn't like I said at the start of the podcast, it's really difficult to get this across sometimes when it sounds like it's a sales pitch. But I don't give a fuck if you get coaching with us or not. I don't care. Like, I care that you just get coaching, that you just put yourself in proximity. It might have nothing to do with us, but we've had plenty of coaches. Like Leigh said, finance coaches. We've had emotional support and healing coaches, EFT, emotional freedom techniques, holistic health, like business coaches. We've had it all. So like, it's not, we can't help you with everything, but we can help you with everything. Our coaching that you can pay for with us won't be for everybody, but we've had coaches in all aspects of our lives. So like, please just ask, reach out and say, guys, I'm struggling with this. Like, what direction could you point me in? we literally are in a group with hundreds of coaches that cover pretty much everything in the world. You could be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of untapped potential in your business just from one conversation. But you might not know what the conversation is. You don't have to have the details figured out. That's what the experts are for. They'll help you figure out the details. You just have to show up. So show up.
That's massive. That is an absolute gem that you just dropped there. Honestly, all the great stuff happens in the conversations in between. 100% does. Someone told us that early days about going to these live events, and when I look back through all of the events I've ever been to, it always has been. The conversations in between is where the magic happens, you know, and that's really where it is. Like I'm going to a thing called Dreamfest in September. It's with Morgan Nelson, Daniel G is going to be there, Karen Ray is going to be there. You know, I know what most of these guys talk about, but guys, it's $66 for God's sake. If you can't pay that for proximity, I can't help you. You know, it's like, so if anybody wants advice on like what to do next, go to that goddamn thing, because there's going to be some great people.
Invite's openly, is it? Is the invite open to go with you?
Let's just come with me. Yeah, if look, you can be in my proximity, you can be in proximity. Who knows who we're going to see there? There's probably going to be people that I know there, and it's just a butterfly effect of that. It's like, I guarantee I'm going to have 5 conversations that day, which is going to add a piece of value to my life and to our business and to everything that we do moving forward. Guarantee it. $66.
There you go.
We're still doing it. I'm still doing it. Get
started there.
You know?
Get started there. That's, hopefully this podcast will be out beforehand, but get started there.
Do it.
And just go to events like that. That's exactly the thing to do. So yeah, guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Unlimited with Leigh and Eoin. My recording time in this studio has ended. So yeah, stay unlimited. Live unlimited is another great one.